guys, it's me, and today I am here with a new reaction video for you guys. Yes, we're doing a reaction video on my beauty, fashion, lifestyle channel today. When worlds collide. Typically I do reaction videos over on my music channel, which if you want to check that out, the link is always down in the description box below. But today we're going to be doing a reaction video to a video that never saw the light of day. Well, kinda. So today we're going to be reacting to how I used to store my makeup and the collection that I used to have years ago. So I recorded this footage back in May of 2019, so about 4 years ago now. I have vague memories of how things were back then, but at the same time it's still a bit blurry. Now, when it comes to going over this footage, I did see a little bit of the footage and whatnot, just simply because I wanted to go over things and do some very quick rough editing for it, because I had the raw files but it had never gotten edited, so I just put all the files together, roughly edited it, and sped up the video as well, because there was about an hour and 10 minutes worth of footage. Got it sped up to 40 minutes. This video isn't going to be that long because I know I'm going to do some jump cut editing with this, because ain't nobody want to sit here and watch me react to me just babble on about makeup and whatnot. This is mostly for me to look at where my makeup collection used to be at and see what all it was that I used to have in my collection, because I don't really remember a whole lot of what I used to have, but I know back then I wasn't as ruthless with decluttering as I am now, because back then I would hold on to things because it's I want to try this out a bit more, I want to get better use out of it, let's keep it, whereas now it's just if I have used it but maybe once or twice over the span of a period of time, it's gotta go, unless it's something that I'm holding on for collector's reason. Even then, I'm starting to let go of that mentality a little bit, because my collector's mentality is a bit strong, but I'm starting to try to work my way out of that. I mean, one item that I was holding on to for collector's reasons were the lip oils from ColourPop that they did for the Mandalorian collection, because I am a slut for Star Wars, but I've decided I like this formula and these products are just sitting here wasting away. Let's go ahead and just start using them and working my way through them. So I've been using those guys and actively using them and putting the lip oil that I really enjoy on pause, so that way I can work through these guys, because I've had them for over a year and I barely used them because of my collector's mentality. I decluttered about 2/3 of my makeup collection last year. So, whereas back in these days, I would maybe declutter maybe a 1/4 or a 1/5 of it at a time. For whatever reason, I had this idea that it's just oh, I'm a beauty influencer, I need to have all these products and whatnot. Whereas now it's just let me just have things that I know that I'm going to enjoy and things that I'm going to use, and just keep those in my collection and go from there. And I will do an updated makeup collection and storage video for you guys at some point. It'll happen after I talk about my makeup purge and just me going over all the things that I have decluttered over the past year and whatnot from my collection. And so I'll be doing that at some point, and then the storage part will probably actually show up and happen a little bit beforehand, because it'll probably take place in the moving vlogs that I have been working on. Well, technically I haven't updated it in a month and a half, I think, but still I'm gonna be doing an update on that soon, because I need to update about the decorations and whatnot in that vlog. But yeah, without further ado, let's go ahead and dive on into this. But before we do so, if you guys are new here to my channel, don't forget to hit subscribe, and also while you're down there, definitely give this video a thumbs up, because that'll help me out a lot. All my links are down in the description box below, which are the links to my Twitter, Instagram, and my music channel, like I mentioned earlier. All those are linked down below if you want to check me out on any of those places. And yeah, let's get into this. Actually, before we get into this, let me give you guys some context. So how I used to store my makeup collection back in the day was in this old desk that I had, and it only had but 3 drawers in it, and they were all the same size. I only kept my makeup collection in the top 2 drawers, and I don't want to say I had a whole lot of stuff, but at the same time I know that I had a lot of stuff back then too. So yeah, because this was in May of 2019. This was about a month and a half, maybe 2 months into me working at Walmart back in the day. And so, I mean, all the money that I was making back then, like kind of like how it was back when I was living with my dad before with my previous job, all the money that I made would come to me and I could do with it however I pleased. What I'm actually doing in this particular video is that I'm taking everything out of the drawers and putting them into boxes, because I think that same day, I think possibly was the same day that I bought my new desk and like my current desk. And so I think it was that same day. And so I was taking everything out of it, so that way I could put everything into this new desk here. I have a better setup and a better storage system now.
Yep. This is that drawer. Now this drawer is actually pretty organized compared to the second drawer. So yeah, let's go ahead and go into
It's
here.
organized?
I know you can see a couple of palettes already in here. You can see some like tools and everything mainly. So, and also this ugly ass clutch
God,
that I keep my brushes in.
God,
right
that
now.
clutch
I'm going to be
is
getting rid of this
so
thing. Don't
ugly.
worry. I'm going to be getting a proper brush storage system soon. So yeah, but for right now, I am going to keep this up until I get that new storage system going for brushes. So yeah.
I'm so glad I had that better storage system for brushes.
Declutter some brushes. So I'll show those off in a bit.
I don't even
And
remember
then right
if
here, I
I
have
did
all my
that.
dirty brushes in this guy right here. I'm also going to be getting rid of this guy because, yeah, I only use it to store dirty brushes. So, and like I said, I'm going to be editing the whole storage system on the brushes as well. So, yeah.
Confessions of a broke ass bitch. Those are some good micellar wipes though. I just don't use makeup wipes anymore because they're not good for the environment. It doesn't look like I have that many
All of
palettes.
these palettes. I'll go ahead and tell you this: the Love Sick Butterfly palette.
God, that palette was so
just don't ever use this
bad.
palette. Yeah, and also, excuse like the scribbles in it. I attempted doing a mixing all my eyeshadows video.
Okay, so I did give some context to that.
Video a while back. Brow Pro palette from.
Oh
I filmed this
God.
at Five Below a few years ago, and the only reason why I held on to this palette all these years is because of the mirror. It has a pretty decent mirror in here, but I have a palette now that has a better mirror, and it's a palette that I will actually use, so I'm going to throw this guy away. It came with 8 brow powders and then 4 brow waxes. Yeah, those brow waxes,
that palette
is just
was
nothing but
terrible.
straight
The
up
powders
toxicity,
were okay.
and they're gross and disgusting, and as you can see, they collect so much trash in them and everything, because like I said, it's just Vaseline. I haven't touched it for my brows in maybe like 2 or 3 years, so it's time to go.
Oh God. I knew that I had that guy for a while, but I didn't know I had it for that long. And just a heads up, I don't have any product from Juvia's Place in my collection at the moment. I did just order their dewy foundation, but I don't have any
standard neutrals.
products
You don't
from
need like a
them
full
actively in my
palette
collection
for
at the
them, so,
moment.
yeah, I'm definitely keeping this guy. It
I
is
love
such
that
a
palette.
pretty palette. I mean, look at it. It's so good. I love every single shade in this palette except for this brown shade. This brown shade is just pressed really, really hard, so it doesn't work that well. And this purple shade is also kind of tricky to work with, but I mean, purples in general are tricky. So yeah, so I'm definitely keeping this.
That metallic green in the center there was
I really want to
wonderful.
get the Deuce and the Afrique palettes, so definitely keep your eyes out.
Oh, I
for
didn't have those
palettes
palettes yet? I thought I had them at this point. Okay. I really
Next
love
up, we have another new palette,
the
and
Deuce
this
palette.
is the what's it called? Blushing
God,
and Volley palette from
That
BH
blush
Cosmetics.
palette,
And
that palette, I
Definitely
use
get
that
a flavor
palette
of
a
it.
lot. I hit pan
Then I
on
have
2 of
this
the
palette
blushes
from
and I think
my
one of the
Wild Things. This
highlighters
is
in
the
that
Rosé
palette.
in the Air palette, and this is said to be a dupe for the Anastasia Modern Renaissance palette. It's only about $5, so compare that to the $42 price tag of the Modern Renaissance. It's a really good steal.
But
It has very
Modern
similar
Renaissance
shades and
is
tones in it,
leagues
and,
ahead
it's
of
a
that
really nice
palette,
palette. The
though.
shadows in here perform really nice.
God, we're struggling.
So yeah, I'm keeping both of these palettes. I do like them both. I've played around with them both just a little bit.
don't
but
have
at the same
either of them
time
in my
for each
collection
palette, so
anymore.
I definitely need to play with them a bit more. Definitely going to be playing with these guys a bit more in the future.
I wonder if they reformulated those palettes because they weren't the best.
These shades are very pigmented and very smooth and buttery.
God, that palette was so hard to work with because it was just so pigmented.
It is a bit too orange for my skin tone, but I might
also,
try some more stuff from City Color in the future.
is City Color still around after the asbestos issue that they had a few years ago?
Keep it up until I get a bronzer. We have this guy right here, which you can't even read the name on because it's completely rubbed off for the most part. But this is the Makeup Revolution Ultra Professional Eyeshadow in Flawless Mattes. And I really love this palette. I've used this palette a good bit. I've had some love with some shades in here.
Yeah, because
I really do enjoy this
pale
palette.
shade
It has a great mirror in it, but I can't
was my shit.
I dropped the palette like shortly after I got it and broke the hinge for the mirror, so I can never use it the mirror in here. But I mean, for $15, this is a great palette. It's got some nice.
I wish that they still had that palette, honestly, because that was such a good,
just feels
true neutrals palette, and it was all matte.
This guy. So yeah, but I do like this palette, and I think that if you want to get a Morphe palette, I would suggest this guy. I can't really say anything about the James Charles palette because I've never used it, and I'm probably never going to get it, not just solely because of the drama going on in the beauty community. I'm filming this video near the end of May, so right now a lot of shit is going on with James Charles and Tati Westbrook right now in the beauty community. But I mean,
God,
with that, I'm the kind of person where it's just like I can separate content creators from like products and things like that, because I mean, honestly, I'd say that I like Jaclyn Hill and everything. I'm not like a big fan of hers, but I do like this palette, and I like the colors in it.
It's crazy how things used to be back then.
But anyways,
the beauty world has changed a lot since 2019.
Looking in it, as you can see,
oh God,
there's a lot in here.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't even know where to start at. I guess we'll start in
Neither
this
do I.
area right here, which is face products. I have this guy. This is in the shade.
God.
What are you in? Light ivory. Yeah,
I
light
love
ivory.
the
This is the lightest shade of this
formula on
foundation,
that.
and I have so many mixed feelings about it. I am going to be getting rid of it though. Like the color is off. It's far too yellow for me, and I feel as if that it just has too much coverage for my personal liking. But I do like the finish of it. But
too much
it has
coverage.
Too much coverage for my personal liking. I find that it settles into the wrinkles in my forehead a bit too much. So
did not have that much coverage to it.
When you might need it. So I'm keeping this guy.
I don't even know if I ever used that Airspun powder besides to smell it.
OG Beauty Guru stuff. Beauty Guru stuff. This is
God.
like circa 2014 beauty YouTube. And that is
really
post-shave balm insensitive.
It was that long ago?
But then I just started simply using it as an aftershave, because it's
Damn.
an aftershave for me, because I do have like sensitive skin when it comes to shaving, which I only
Nikki Tutorials had us in a chokehold with recommending that product.
Beard. So yeah, what used to be my favorite foundation, and this is the Nyx BB
Oh
Nude.
God!
This guy because I just don't ever use it anymore, and also like it just goes really yellow.
That product had me in a chokehold.
Yeah, I'm just gonna part ways.
I think I went
I might see if my sister can use it and give it to her. So
two tubes of that, I think. Maybe 3.
Next up we have
I love that
the
stuff.
Wet n Wild Coverall foundation, and this is in the lightest shade.
Oh,
Fair. This
yeah.
foundation has been discontinued, and I used it as a foundation for a little while, but then started realizing that it just doesn't work for my skin tone as an eyeshadow primer, and it worked great as an eyeshadow primer.
It did work good as an eyeshadow primer for a foundation. It worked well as a primer.
Moisturizer. And this stuff is
that
great.
moisturizer.
It's great for skincare, and like I said, it works good with mixing in with foundation. Yes, this tube is really dirty.
It's not that good. It's not that good.
I've had this tube for a while now.
I've upped my moisturizer game since then.
And then I have a tube.
It is not that good. And I don't even think they make that moisturizer anymore. And I think I went through like 2 or 3 tubes of that moisturizer too.
Foundations that I have is a new foundation in my collection.
Oh,
this is the Too Faced Dew You foundation in the shade Swan. I think this is my new favorite foundation. I've only used it once so far.
The color was slightly off on me.
My first impressions of it so far, I really, really love this foundation. It's also the most expensive
it was
foundation I have in
okay.
my collection. And it's probably the most expensive product that I have in my collection right now too. So, yeah.
And this was also back when I supported Too Faced.
I am used to liquid highlighters from Wet n Wild. These
oh
are Halo
God, I
liquid
love
highlighters.
those.
I'm going to be keeping both of these shades. These are in the shades Halo Graphic, which is this one here, which you cannot see just how beautiful this guy is on camera. Then I have these 3 highlighters.
Oh, wow.
2 of them are limited edition and one of them is permanent. The Ideal Hydrating Setting Spray, and then I have the NYX Dewy Finish Setting Spray. I'm going to
that
be
NYX
these.
Dewy.
I love them both.
That has been a tried and true for me for a long time.
I don't know. I just think that this guy just doesn't apply on me the way that I would want it to. So I'm gonna give it one last try.
Because that particular blush you could use as a contour because it was a straight up taupey gray.
Very old no longer
But I would also
available,
put it in
but
my
blush. This guy's been
eyebrows.
discontinued for a while, and this is in the shade Heather Silk. This was the first blush I ever purchased, and
That blush
it's a little
was
too dark
so
for me,
pigmented.
But I use it as an eyeshadow.
It wasn't
So,
too dark,
I'm
it
still
was just
gonna keep it
way
because it's
too
very pretty,
pigmented.
and it's still in good condition. So yeah, it's gonna stay for now.
Like for like a $4 blush,
those
that
are
was
all
like the
these
most
products, so now
intense
everything else is
blush you
like
could
eyes
probably
and lips.
find on the
I think I'll go
market
ahead
in
and
terms of
start
formula.
with a lot of the eye products, just simply because I could get it there, and
Oh,
I'm keeping it, even though
Titanic
it's
Casualty
no longer good, and I
Purple.
don't ever use it. I just keep it for sentimental value. I won this guy in a contest that I entered years ago, held by May Graves, back when Casanova Company was big. And if you don't know who May
I
is,
still
she is
follow
a
her to this
really
day.
amazing, spooky drag queen who does burlesque. I love her to death. And she,
I don't know if she
love her so much.
still
If you wanna
does
see the video
burlesque
that I made
anymore.
for my contest entry for this guy, I will link it either in the description box below or in the eye in the corner. I just know that it is kind of cringy and just cheesy and just off the wall weird, but I'm so proud of myself for actually doing it and actually winning a contest. So, yeah.
I don't even know if I still have that video public on that channel or not.
And
Oh,
I
God.
think I'm going to burn waves with some of them, so I'm going to go ahead and swatch them and figure out which ones
Those
I want to keep
lip
and which ones
lingeries,
I
the
am going to
originals,
part
had
ways
me
with.
in a
And so I love
chokehold.
them. So I'm going to go ahead. So I'm going to
God, and I don't even know why I loved those original lip lingeries so much. They were so dry.
I'm going to keep these four here.
Oh, God.
Miracle
The
Matte
Miracle
Lip, and
Matte
this is in the
Lips.
shade Crimson Touch, and I'm definitely
Such
gonna keep
a
this guy. It is such a
underrated
gorgeous red.
formula.
I love it so much. It's so pretty. So I'm definitely keeping this guy.
That red isn't the best one on me. I decluttered it, but that
Wild
formula
and
is
I have the
so
shades
good.
Purple. Next up are these two NYX Liquid Suede liquid lipsticks.
God.
I'm getting rid of both of these. I have the shades Jet Set and Silver Fox.
Good.
I just don't care for the formula on these guys enough to keep them. And yeah, and the two of these guys are
It
really
was-
old. I think they're starting to separate a bit too. I think this one in particular, Jet Set, is going to start separating.
That formula
everything.
was so
And
difficult
it just-
to work with
It's
because
well, it's looking okay there right now.
with the typical
And
liquid
I just don't care for
lipstick,
this formula enough to keep them. So
you just put it on and go. With these, you would have to blot them because if you just put
Next
on
up
a
are
layer,
these
they would
four
always
NYX
peel
Soft Matte
off.
NYX matte lipsticks, which I'm going to be throwing away both of these. These are just really old. Last time I looked at them, I think they were starting to look bad.
I
especially
wish
this
that they
one,
would
which is
bring
butter,
those
because I think
back.
This one was, yeah, this one just looks really gross. I don't know how well you guys can see that, but
Ooh.
it is just looking really gross. So this one is definitely going to be thrown away.
I really love that
And then
butter
I think
shade
this one here,
though.
Alabama, is like right there with it and everything, of just not looking the best. And yeah, they both just need to be thrown away because I mean, like these
I
guys are
wish that
really
they would bring that formula
I think
back
I've
because
used
that
them
was
for
such a
5
good
years,
formula.
so they need to be thrown away.
Oh, I had them for 5 years. Oh
And the
my
last one
God.
was Potion, and this was a little mini size that came with my smoked palette that I used to have, which I
Oh my
shared a while back.
God.
I thought that I would be finished through this guy by now, but I just, yeah, no. It's super old. It's about 5 years old. It needs to be thrown away, so that's what I'm gonna do.
How did I make that mini last me
And the other two
5
primers that I have here,
years?
I have the e.l.f. Eyelid primer in the shade Sheer, which I believe is the only eyelid primer that they have. I really do.
I
like
wish
this
that they would
so
bring that
much.
back.
And then I have the NYX
It was a
Glitter
dupe
primer, which
for
I've only used
the
this about a couple
primer
times,
potion.
but I have
It was so
really enjoyed
good.
how it works so far. So yeah, definitely keeping it.
I mean, primer potion is my go-to these days, but if they were to bring back that essential eyelid primer,
Really, I'm
I
filming
would
right now.
bring it back into my collection in a heartbeat.
Cosmetics. I actually was
Oh,
duped these by
Corpse
the owner of the brand
Cosmetics.
Kimmy, and really love Coven. It's super pretty and just really nice. But I don't.
I
get a lot
don't
of
have
these from
either of
Chloe, so
those
I'm gonna put these
anymore.
They're really good stuff. I definitely want to try out more from them in the future. So yeah, and
I
know
never
Astrid
did.
uses their
I'm
website,
sorry,
so
Kimmy,
wanna see
if
how
you
their
might be
website goes,
watching
definitely check out
this.
some of her posts.
But then again, I haven't spoken to Kimmy in a very, very long time. Oh my God.
Next
My
up
Primal
are
Colors.
the NYX Primal Colors. So I have 6 of the 8 that
Oh
they
my
released. I don't know if these are still
God.
available or not. I think they still are, but these
They're
are
not.
pigments, and I
Not
I have 6
anymore,
of
at
each shade that
least.
they released. I don't know if they have only one that I'm going to be keeping is the OG Hot Red.
Hot red.
This one I get the most use
I
out of.
loved
now, I
Hot
would part
Red
ways with
so
this guy
much.
because which is the most intense black eyeshadow I have ever used because I mean,
That
it does
shit
have
was
pigment,
so
technically
messy.
they're not eyeshadows, but this guy is so pigmented and so intense that it is messy and hard to work with. So yeah, I'm gonna part ways with this guy.
Like, that was Urban
I
Decay
have
Blackout
Hot Wave. This isn't the
on
best
meth.
ever Wet n Wild one, and this is in the shade Ruby. And it is a very pretty glitter. I've used this before. It was only 99 cents. But as I found more and more use out of it, it's starting to
99
just be a bit
cents. Oh my
because I don't
God.
know if you guys can tell, but
That
it
is
just
how
seems as if it's
cheap
more of like the adhesive
Drugstore makeup
or
used
the
to be,
adherence
or in fact,
thingy that's
Wet
in
n
there
Wild
that's
used
left
to
in the
be.
pan. Next Wonder Pencil in
Oh, the
light, keeping this guy
I'm
obviously.
so glad
I
that
use
they
this in
brought the
almost
Wonder
every single
Pencils
look that I
back,
use.
but they don't have one that's as good as the OG.
One last thing that I have
There's one last thing that I had.
So
oh my
the last
god!
thing that I have to declutter is this dinosaur.
I forgot
this was the
about
Geometric 150
this.
palette, and I meant to throw this guy out a while back when I did my last declutter at the beginning of the year. I think was when I did that declutter. It was like sometime last year, but I held on to it because I was just like, I might need to use it, and just in case I'm gonna hold on to it. But I haven't touched it.
That geometric palette though, oh my god, that had me shook. Oh my god. I loved that palette. Okay, so my makeup collection back then was a lot of drugstore, as you guys could see. A lot of NYX, a lot of Wet n Wild, a few prestige brands here and there, whereas now, majority of my collection now is like prestige at this point. Like the only drugstore or mid-range brands that I have now, I have NYX, Wet n Wild, About Face, Makeup Geek, and ColourPop. That was a fun little trip down memory lane, like seeing like the things that I was into. I have products that are a lot better now from how they were back then, because I remember the looks that I created back in those days using a lot of those products, like saying like the NYX Primal Colors. Like back then, in terms of like drugstore, those were the only bright colors that you could get from the drugstore were the NYX Primal Colors, and they weren't even that good. The only one that was good, in my opinion, was probably Hot Red. I never had Hot Pink or Hot Fuchsia, so I can't speak for those two, but the others that I had, those were not great. Like especially Hot Black, like if you wanted like pigmentation, just going off of pigmentation, Hot Black was wonderful, but it was so pigmented and just so dry and just so not firmly pressed enough that it was so messy and difficult to work with. Like the NYX BB cream, I loved that product for such a long time. And one comment that I found interesting was how I had mentioned that like certain products had too much coverage in them for me. And it's just like, it's fun knowing that like even back then I didn't really care for having too much coverage in products. But I think a big part of it was because of the fact that a lot of foundations back then really weren't formulated for people with drier skin, because back then matte skin was the big thing, whereas now like natural and even glowy skin is like coming into trend, which is great for us dry folks and everything. But back then, like, it was matte everywhere, and it was matte for so long. Now I am tempted to do another one of these kinds of videos where I go back even further to when I first started getting into makeup and showing like my first like proper makeup collection, and just seeing like how far I've come with in terms of just like how many products I have. Like I thought that I had more palettes back then than I actually did, but then again, like I didn't really start getting a whole lot of makeup till I think probably 2020 was when I started to really get a lot more products in my collection. I want to say it was like in 2020, especially in 2021, because that's when I finally started working in the beauty industry, in the retail space in particular. It's reminding me of like how like drugstore makeup used to be like really dodgy, very hit or miss, with a lot more misses than hits. And also like hearing me mention that one Wet n Wild glitter was 99 cents. I mean, it was not that good. It was just like glitter suspended in like possibly Vaseline and everything, but it was 99 cents. And like that one Wet n Wild blush that I had, Heather Silk, I still remember it to this day. Like the formula on it, it was so soft and it had really good pigmentation on it. And it was only about $4, I think. But the issue that I had with it though is that it was way too pigmented, and I didn't really know how to work with blush back then. And then too, back then, like cream products were more hardly a thing back then. And so whereas now like all the blushes that I have are creams. I don't have any powder blushes in my collection. And I don't know how long this video is going to be, so if it is a longer video, I do apologize. And I know that I was fairly quiet. I was just observing and just seeing what all it was that I was into back in those days. But I did light up at times, like especially at the end there with that e.l.f. Geometric 150 palette. That palette, I want to say it was only but like 15 or 20 bucks, I want to say, but I used the shit out of that palette. I used that palette so much because it had so much in it. I mean, it had 150 eyeshadows in it, and for the most part the shadows in that palette were actually pretty decent from what I remember. There were some shades that were like misses and everything, particularly like the purples in it, but like the blues were good, the greens were good, obviously the neutrals were good, but I never used the neutrals in that palette, hardly ever. There were like these like pinky red tones that were in there that were just so strange and so unique that I've never really seen other brands do and everything. Like maybe the closest I can think of would probably be like the original Venus palette from Lime Crime. It's also wild for me to think about the fact that like there are certain products that I would just hold on to for any excessive amount of time. Like talk about how like I had lipsticks for like 5 years, which I know some people do have lipsticks in their collections that are that old, but they don't use them. Those are strictly for like collecting purposes. Like say like people have like MAC lipstick collections. These were things that I was using. And also it's fun to know that even back then I was into like more like neutral brown toned nudes back then, like I am now. Like when it comes to me and nudes, I like the more neutral leaning tones. I don't like nudes that are like a bit more on the pinkier side. I like them when they're a bit more on the brown side. I don't know, I just find them to be more flattering on me. Part of me wants to say I wasn't wearing makeup that often back then, but at the same time, I think I was wearing it a fair amount. Actually, no, I wasn't wearing makeup that often back then because I was still working at Walmart. And when I was working at Walmart, I had very little me time back then because I was working like 40 hours a week. You're there all day long, and so it's just like you have no free time whenever you have to go into work. That is it for this video. This was a fun little trip down memory lane, and it's gonna be interesting editing this video. God, this is gonna be such a long video. I am sorry. Let me know if you guys want to see me go back and react to like my probably my first bit of makeup, like when I first started getting like a tiny collection of products. And then probably after I do that will be when I do my purge video, and then after that will be me showing you guys my current collection. So yeah, but let me know if you guys would be interested in that, so we can see the evolution of my makeup collection and the things that I've had in and out of my collection over the years. That's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and until I see you guys in my next one, whatever that might be. Goodbye.